Good evening and welcome to our Smyrna Town Council meeting for June. Before we move into our meeting and I call it to order, we have a very special month this month. An exciting time here in the town of Smyrna because it is the 40th anniversary of Nissan choosing the town of Smyrna as their home. And we had a little bit of a celebration in the back before we moved into our meeting. And at this time, I'm going to ask Amber to read a proclamation for us.
Yes, ma'am. Whereas the opening of Nissan Smyrna Vehicle Assembly Plant in 1983 marked the genesis of automotive production in Tennessee, and whereas Nissan Smyrna Vehicle Assembly Plant built its first truck on June 16, 1983, rolling a Nissan 720 pickup off the assembly line in Smyrna, and whereas Nissan Smyrna Vehicle Assembly Plant has become one of the highest volume vehicle assembly plants in North America, building nearly 15 million vehicles over the past 40 years. And whereas Nissan Smyrna Vehicle Assembly Plant proudly employs more than 7,000 people. And whereas Nissan Smyrna Vehicle Assembly Plant currently builds the Nissan Leaf, Maxima, Murano, Rogue, Pathfinder, and Infiniti QX60. And whereas the town of Smyrna hereby formally celebrates Nissan's 40th year in the town of Smyrna and their service to the community as a leading corporate citizen, exemplary employer, and corporate leader, and looks forward to continued success and partnership. Now, therefore, I, Mary Esther Reed, Mayor of the town of Smyrna, and on behalf of the town council, do hereby encourage all citizens to join in honor and celebration of the extraordinary occasion of Nissan's 40th anniversary in Smyrna. Proclaim this the 6th day of June, 2023.
Thank you, Amber. If all the Nissan representatives will come forward at this time, we're going to have you all come up. If you'll just make your way around this way and face forward, we want to make sure to get everybody on camera.
Yeah, Mayor.
Yes. Consul General, will you join us, please? So, for those of us, please come in. For those of us that have lived in Smyrna our whole life, or over 40 years, you know what a change Nissan made for the town of Smyrna, and a change for the better. And they helped to lay the foundation of what we look like today. And we talked a little bit in the back about how different things are now than they were before. And we're actually going to be showing a video on Channel 3 from 40 years ago of when the plant had the dedication and what things were like prior to the Nissan plant being in that big field out there. We just want to say thank you. We want to say thank you for all you have done. We want to say thank you for your continued partnership with the town of Smyrna. We look forward to 40 more years. At this point, I'm going to let each one of you introduce yourself and tell us how long you've been with the plant.
My name is Sangtong Budabong. I work here for Nissan almost 40 years. Work at body shop the whole time.
Tim Oatsfall, been there 40 years.
Clyde Howard, been there 40 years, and I came in right after summer shutdown.
Jackie Brady, 38 years.
Kevin Hines, 22 years.
You get to speak as well.
Steve Sullivan, I've been at Nissan for 12 years.
Brian Crockett, I've been at Nissan for 11 years. Elizabeth McKay. I'm newer. I've been here since October, but I'm really happy to celebrate everyone who has had incredible careers at Nissan.
Well, I'm going to top her. I'm Mary Keeley. I've been here for 3 weeks.
David Sussman, 13 years at Nissan.
Tim Slate, 27 years.
There you go. I'll let you.
Do I officially get the award now?
Officially give you the award, yes.
I'll let you hold it as I go through this. I want to say thank you. Honestly, it's an honor for me to be able to stand up here today, but thanks to the town of Smyrna for the acceptance one, the support, and the partnership. Most importantly, I mentioned it's an honor. It's an honor to be able to receive this award on behalf of the employees that actually worked at Smyrna, specifically for the individual that's been over there 40 years. This is your recognition. Honestly, you've built an economy around here, and we're all grateful for what you've done, the commitment to excellence. Again, we've built over 14 million vehicles, but the economic development is something that we should take pride in. So thank you, and thank you again. Thank you.
So Chief loves to get photos, and it looks like we have some other people here tonight that like to get photos. So what council, will y'all stand up, please, and behind us so we all can be in the photo? We done, Chief?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all very much. Thank you. It's warm, it's hot. So we were so honored to have those from Nissan here, but even more so that tonight we have our Consul General of Japan, Consul General Matsumoto, if you'll come forward, and I think you have a few words for us.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor and council members, distinguished members. It is a great honor to be here today to join in celebrating the 40th year partnership between Town of Smyrna and Nissan. I would like to congratulate you all here and all people concerned outside this room for long established relationship and its successes. And I would like to thank you all for your contribution to strengthening the relationship bonds between Japan and Smyrna, Japan and Tennessee, and Japan and the United States. Town of Smyrna and Nissan have been playing a leading role to strengthening the relationship between Tennessee and Japan. I'm really impressed by that such a long-time relationship. The opening of the Nissan plant for production has significant impact on Smyrna people, as I heard from Mayor. But the impacts that had brought about are more than that. The opening of the plant helped accelerate the growth of a new southern automotive corridors. Nissan's success has helped Japan's broader partnership with the people of Tennessee to continue their growth as well. the local communities in Tennessee. We now have in Tennessee more than 200 Japanese-owned facilities, and about 60,000 Tennesseans are working for those Japanese-owned facilities. These companies have become full members of their local communities, contributing to making their life better. Their integration into local life is a powerful statement about the value of international cooperation. On that note, I also would like to express my gratitude to everyone who has supported the Sister City partnership with Zama City and Smyrna. The work of the Sister City Committee for more than 30 years, if I'm not mistaken, furthered the grassroots exchange, people-to-people exchanges. That is one of the foundations of a good relationship. Smyrna and Japan, Tennessee and Japan, and the United States and Japan. So it is again great honor to be here today, joining you in celebrating that such a excellent corporations. And our Consul General is looking forward to cooperate with Town of Smyrna. So if there anything we could do, please let us know. Thank you very much, Mayor and the council members again.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you very much.
We look forward to a continued relationship with you and your office, so thank you very much. At this time, Chris Clark, the Director of Public Safety for Rutherford County EMA, if you would come forward. For those of you that don't know Chris, we got to know Chris pretty intimately over the pandemic, I would say. Brian, would you agree?
Absolutely, on an hourly basis.
I would agree. So Chris, I know you have something you want to talk to us about, but I also want you to tell us a little bit about your role and what you do and how you serve Rutherford County. And just for those in the audience and those that are at home, as well as council that might not know.
My name is Chris Clark, Public Safety Director for Rutherford County. Been in this position since March 30th of 2020, at the beginning of our pandemic. I stepped into this office not knowing anything about a pandemic, and we've learned a lot. We were able to manage it as we would any other large event. And my job and role is to prepare our county for large events and disasters, things like that. Preparedness, coordinate responses, mitigate issues that we can prevent, and then last but not least, the efforts in recovery and getting our people back to normal. I get the cool job of hanging around our firemen, our police officers, our police chiefs, our fire chiefs, and coordinating those efforts and making sure that our public has everything that they need. The reason I'm here today is I want to say thank you for the town of Smyrna and their efforts. On April the 1st, we received a reports of an EF1 tornado damage in the area of Eagleville. Later, approximately 30 minutes later, we were getting reports of an EF2 that touched down in the Reedville area. Immediately, we responded, finding that Reedville received more damage than Eagleville. However, we had crews out. We actually had several people that were trapped under rubble in the city of, or the town of Reedville, working in with Cannon County, which I found out that the river doesn't separate Cannon County and Rutherford County. Actually, the Reedville Street center line separates the two counties. So we worked and were involved with Cannon County as well. And you wouldn't know the difference between one county or the other. Eventually, later after the sun had rows, we determined that we had everyone accounted for in those areas. We set up a volunteer center that was located at New Hope Church of Christ in Cannon County for volunteers to come in and check in. And what we did was we banded the volunteers and the residents. Residents was one color, volunteers was another. And the reason we did that was so that we understood who was the resident and who was a volunteer. In that dark, everybody left except the residents. Our sheriff's department secured the area. And the reason we did it this way is so that we could eliminate vehicles being in the way of trying to remove debris, rescue efforts such as that. And it worked out really well. Soon after that, we determined that we're going to need assistance with bringing volunteers from the volunteer center to the site where they can help. And that's where I reached out to the town of Smyrna fire chief and requested assistance from his department to bring in a van with a driver to shuttle all of our volunteers back and forth to the site. And it eliminated all the vehicles on the side of the road and where we could continue to work. We didn't do that for just one day. We did that for 2 weeks. And during that event, we also reached out to Smyrna Fire Department for lighting. At night, Readable Street, you couldn't see one side of the road to the other. And the officers couldn't tell if somebody came in on foot. And so we lit that area up so that we prevent looters. And so I wanted to come and tell you thank you for your assistance during that tornado. I want to thank the fire department, their personnel, and I also want to thank you for your partnership and most of all, your friendship. I'm very privileged to be in this position, and I'm very grateful for the partnership that Rutherford County and Smyrna has, and also for the cities that assisted us in this event. And it's our hopes that we can return that favor in the event that that happens again. Thank you.
Questions for Chris? Chris, we appreciate the job you do. We appreciate you always being willing to reach out a hand when we need it. Chief, I appreciate you and what you do to always step up and be willing to help when somebody else is in need. And Brian, thank you for allowing our departments to do that. We always want to make sure that we're good neighbors. I always say that, you know, it doesn't stop at the city limits of the town of Smyrna. We're all in this together. So we appreciate the relationship that we've built with you over these last couple of years.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, at this point, I will call our meeting to order, and our prayer tonight is going to be done by Chaplain Bob Horn with the Smyrna Police Department, if he's not left us. There you go. And our pledge is going to be done by our Smyrna Police Chief, Jason Urban. So if you'll all stand with us, please.
Shall we pray? Our most gracious, loving Heavenly Father, the creator and sustainer of life, we're so thankful for Thee. We're thankful for the day that we've been blessed with. We're thankful for the ability of each one that leads this community. We're thankful for the leaders that sit upon this council. We know that your hand is upon them and has placed them in those seats to help lead the people of this community. We're thankful for the business leaders that help keep our community running and economically strong. We're thankful for the safety that it provides and those that look after us here. Pray that you continue to be with each one as they make the decisions for the best of those that live here, and that we may be successful as a community and as ones that live together. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chaplain. Thank you, Chief. No, I'm good. Miss Amber, if you'll do roll call.
Councilman Morrell? Councilwoman Peebles? Here. Councilman Cole?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilman Short?
Here.
Councilman Sullivan?
Present.
Vice Mayor Atkins?
Here.
Mayor Reed?
Here. Okay, we'll move on to item 3, which is approval or corrections of the minutes of the May 9th, 2023 regular meeting and the May 25th, 2023 work session meeting of the Town Council. Jeff, are these in order? Great. Do we have any additions or corrections? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
To approve the minutes.
A motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes pass. Brian, any correspondence, communications, awards, or recognitions?
No, ma'am, not this evening.
Okay, then we'll move on to item 6, which is our consent agenda. And these are items that are determined by our town manager to be routine matters and not necessarily needing individual discussion. But if there is an item that a council member would like to pull off and discuss individually, we can do that. And I do like to read these so that those in the audience as well as those at home know exactly what we're voting on. So just be patient with me because we have quite a few tonight. Item A, approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute an agreement with Cerdant to provide external security monitoring and management services. Item B, approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute change orders 1 and 2 for the sewer rehab basins A8 and A9. Item C, approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute the material bid agreements for gas, water, and sewer materials for the 23-24 budget year. Item D, approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute change order number 2 for the Sam Ridley water line and change order number 1 for the Weekly Lane water line. Item E is approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute the mechanical maintenance contract renewal for the water and wastewater plant. Item F, approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute contract renewals for chemicals for the water and wastewater treatment plants for 23-24. Item G, approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute the 23-24 annual bid contracts for treatment chemicals at the water treatment plant. Item H, approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute an annual contract for the concrete repairs with Rollins Excavating Company Incorporated. Item I is approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute an agreement with Sweeping Corporation of America to clean town streets. Item J, approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute an agreement with Neil Schaefer to provide CEI services for the ITS Phase 3, 4, 5 project. Item K is approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute change order number 3 with Sessions Paving Company on the Lowry Street Phase 1 Streetscapes project. Item L is approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute the supplemental agreement with Barge Design Solutions for the Lee Victory Recreation Park Road project. Item M is approval of the classification and compensation plan for the town employees for fiscal year 23-24. And the last one is approval of the terms of and authorization for the mayor to execute an agreement with Reagan Smith to perform engineering design for the Lowry Street Phase 3 project. Council, anything you'd like to pull off and discuss individually? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent?
So moved.
Have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda passes. Amber, you get big brownie points. Not putting those chemicals individually on the water and wastewater plant. Was that Miss Diane that was doing that, or was that Mike Strange?
I think it was Miss Diane. I
Oh, it
looked
was?
back and they're listed still for you in your packet.
Right, but at least I don't have to say them, so.
Okay. I'll
Big word night.
You're right. No, I think that's workshop.
Okay.
Okay. So tonight we have 7 public hearings under old business. Our first public hearing is consideration of an ordinance amending Municipal Code Title 18, Chapter 4, relative to the cross-connection control. Jeff, are you taking this?
Yes. Mayor and Council, this change and amendment pertains to third-party inspections for backflow prevention devices, and it would be for those that have fire sprinklers. And this would just allow for that third-party inspections to be turned into utilities.
Okay, council, any questions or discussion for Jeff on this? Seeing none, we'll go to the public, see if there's anyone here to speak for or against this item. Seeing no one, close public hearing, go to council for a motion.
Move to approve.
A motion to approve, do we have a second? Motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. We'll now move on to item B, which is consideration of an ordinance amending the text of the Smyrna Municipal Zoning Ordinance, Article 9, floodplains. Kevin, how are you?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a text amendment to the zoning ordinance. This isn't one that the council actually approved in April, but FEMA did have a few changes they asked us to make, and so this would make the changes to make it consistent with what they want us to have in our ordinance. These are all minor. They are highlighted in yellow in the ordinance, the attached ordinance I sent with you in the packet. The Planning Commission did review this, did recommend approval unanimously, and staff would also recommend approval.
We've had quite a bit of discussion on this. Are there any questions for Kevin? Seeing none, we'll go to the public, see if there's anyone here to speak for or against this item. Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing, go to council for motion.
Move to approve.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Our next public hearing is a consideration of an ordinance relative to the rezoning of property located on tax map 28L, Group C, parcel 16.00, to go from R2 to C4. It's requested by Phyllis Campbell. The property requested to be rezoned contains 1.29 acres and is located at 106 Wright Street. Kevin?
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is a rezoning request on 106 Wright Street. It's about 300 feet west of the intersection with Front Street. Land use plan for this area is the Depot District character area, which support a mix of uses, so they're more urban in lot sizes and setbacks, such as retail, restaurant, office, and residential uses. Surrounding zoning is a mix of R2 and C1. There is not adequate fire flow at this location for commercial development at the current time, so no development could actually, or no commercial use of the property would be allowed until that fire flow issue is resolved. The Planning Commission did review this, did recommend approval, 4 for and 1 against. Staff would also recommend approval.
Questions for Kevin on this? Okay, since there's no questions for Kevin, we'll go to the public to see if there's anyone here to speak for or against this item. Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing, go to council for a motion.
Move to approve.
A motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion?
Kevin, I know we talked about this before. This definitely has the potential to be put into the historic overlay at some point.
Certainly, yes.
Would you, at some point, recommend taking in a larger section rather than property by property?
Yes, yeah, I think we would, if we wanted to consider that, I think we had to look at a
Gotcha.
much larger area than
Okay.
just this individual property. Sure.
And that's what we talked about. I just kind of want to put that on record.
Okay, any other discussion? We have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You weren't a slow aye, you were a no.
I'm a no.
Okay, got it. Okay, I wasn't sure if you were a slow no or an aye. Okay, we'll move on to item D, which is Amber, you got that? Okay. Our item D is also a public hearing. It's a consideration of a resolution relative to a plan of services for property located on tax map 50, parcel 33.02, and part of parcels 33.00 and 72.00.
Yes, this is the plan of services for the annexation. That's the next item on your agenda. This does detail the services that will be provided by the town upon the effective date of the annexation, which would be, in this case, all town services except for water, which would be provided by a consolidated utility district. The Planning Commission did recommend approval unanimously. Staff would also recommend approval.
Council, questions on this?
Does Consolidated presently have sufficient water?
They do not. They have sufficient water for domestic, but not for fire flow. And so the CUD did provide a report to the developer, which was in your packet. There's some options that they can do to correct that issue. There is adequate flow if they sprinkle the buildings as well. So that's another option that they could go about. But there are some options for actually upgrades to the water, and I think I don't know if the developers made that decision yet or not. So.
How far would they have to go to get water to be sufficient?
I think it's about 700 gallons per minute now or something like that, so they have to increase it by 300 gallons a minute at 20 PSI.
can't recall. I would have to look at the report. There's several options. Like I said, there was about 3 different options, I think, that he had that they could look at with regards to whether or not they, just for this track or utilizing some of the other properties. Yeah, there's 2 alternatives. But as far as how far they would have to go, about 12,000 feet, looks like. Replacing about 12,000 feet existing 6 and 8 inch water main with a 12-inch main. So there's one option. The other one has 2,900 feet replacement, but there was a limitation as far as the number of lots because they have to be below a certain elevation to meet that requirement. So.
You know, one of my concerns when we look at plan of services, that it also includes streets and such as that. And of course, when you read down on it, it says reconstruction and resurfacing of streets, installation of storm drainage facilities, construction of curbs and gutters, and other such major improvements as the need therefore is determined by the governing body. You know, it's not necessarily that what would be inside of this particular subdivision that gives me cause for pause, but it's some of the neighboring intersections. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, and of course, this would only apply to the area that we're annexing, which we did recommend, and it is included in is the annexation of a pretty significant amount of Lee Road as well as the existing right-of-way of Jordan Lane, which is the road that's proposed to be, with this development, would be essentially removed and eliminated. So yes, if we annex the road, we do inherit the existing right-of-way. If there's potholes that need to be fixed, we would have to fix them. Any improvements to those roads, it becomes our responsibility. Immediate improvements beyond what would happen with this development. You know, of course, I know you're probably referencing the existing intersection of Rocky Fork and Lee,
Which is not yet in the.
It's not yet in the city and would not be annexed with this if you choose to annex it. So, so yes, it becomes in 30 days from tonight, if you choose to vote to annex it, it would become our responsibility. So.
Kevin, speak to the Lee Road in general. I know we talked about this in Planning Commission, some improvements that are on plan for Lee Road.
Well, that certainly was on our list of items that the town is looking at as far as with some budgeted.
As it grows out that way.
Yeah, with several grows out there. That's not currently on the plan. I mean, it's on the plan, but it's not currently being looked at closely. The Rocky Fork Allenville Road is what we're working on right now.
So Rocky Fork Lee Road's not.
Lee Road it's not the first, it's Rocky Fork Allenville is what's being, in the under design currently for improvements. So Lee Road is certainly in the pipeline, but it's not something that's
not in front of us
immediate.
today.
It's not the first one, correct.
I should have some concerns that you do. I mean, I think we discussed this last time at the meeting and asked, I think we want to look at the overall picture as to what is it that we want to do as a town.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think that meeting's set up for Wednesday
Next week.
of next week.
It's just we have these large parcels of land that are coming in and being developed, and they are inundating our roads, and it would just behoove us to be looking far enough in the future to possibly get some of the developers to enter into the improvements.
Partner.
You know what? Partner. Okay. But I guess the one that bothers me is that, Greystone is probably the biggest one that's in the area, and probably the biggest one that's going to be in the area. Is that right?
We missed the boat, right?
We missed the boat,
Yeah,
right.
sure
right.
did.
But just because we missed the boat doesn't
yeah.
need to mean we need to keep missing
Yeah,
the
we
boat
gotta
over
take-
and over.
We got to take the next boat.
That's right.
I want to ask council a question, because I know in my field of work, Raquel might even have some input in this. Legally, can somebody improve somebody else's property? In other words, for example, we said this developer's got to go several hundred feet down to improve an intersection that they don't own. Does that cause any problems?
Usually you want there to be a nexus or work with that other local government, if that's going to be the case, because they're the ones that have purview over it. But obviously there
But that
needs
could
to-
affect some land around it as well, right? So,
And the test usually too, is there a nexus between what they're doing that would affect the whole? And not just, do they get responsibility for the whole? You know, it's going to be, what is their impact to that? But, you know, unless we had some type of agreement with Rutherford County on this, I would prefer to see that it be annexed and under the towns if we're.
Technically, we could annex it along with this parcel if we so
If it's
choose to do so,
requested.
could we not?
If we
it's
announce
requested.
it, yes, yeah. If we
Well,
announce
I
it.
mean, request it.
we'd have to ask the county, right?
Well, I mean, it would be something, he couldn't do it tonight.
No,
That
but-
wasn't advertised.
No, but I
My God, he
guess,
watches. I'm just kidding.
but I
You
guess
certainly
here's,
could,
Commission
it
also,
could be
correct?
something we could work through, the planning commission discussion, and a recommendation could be made to you, certainly. And we could, certainly would want to work with Rutherford County in that, but.
and I guess my point is, these are the things I want us to be able to hash out next Wednesday night as to what it is that we as a town want to see. And I think we need recommendation from staff. I think we need to have our input as to what we want to see happen. I mean, I want to see, development's
further out.
never going to pay for itself. It's never going to fully pay for itself. But I don't want them to have to do everything outside of the part they're asking for, but I don't think it's too much to ask them to partner in if it's something that's close by to ask for.
Well, in this particular one, in planning, we asked them, without even doing the traffic study, to put that turn lane in.
Right.
For safety purposes, and they agreed to do that. So,
But I'm not sure we don't need to look at the intersection down the road as well. Okay, let me ask you this. If we wanted to wait till after the meeting and we wanted to defer this project, would you recommend deferring D and E and F all?
I would think so, yeah, I think that's.
Yes.
Okay.
That's kind of what I was thinking was, since there still seems like there's some discussion and some questions, that we defer it to maybe next month. And we had time to have that conversation, but I wasn't sure whether we could do plan of services and not do the other part, or should we do it all together?
I think you should do it all together.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't want to give anybody the impression I'm not in favor of this project at all. That's not what I'm saying.
I agree, I think it's a good project.
Agree. But I think we have some questions that we want to get answered that we don't want to miss the boat. Yes, agree, totally agree. So, this is a public, well, are there any other questions for Kevin before we go to the public hearing? Okay, this is a public hearing, so I'll ask if anyone wants to speak for or against this item, if you'll come forward. State your name, address, if you're here representing someone for our record, please.
Good afternoon, or good evening. Rob Olson, SEC, on behalf of the applicant. Yes, HD, to answer your question, the FID report from CUD did outline 3 different options for us to look at. Of course, one of which was 1,200 and some feet coming all the way back from Cook Lane. Not the option we're looking at. We're looking at the short-term option, which is the 2,900 linear feet coming up Rocky Fork Road right now. And there's already a 12-inch line down there at the Oak Meadows at the end of that.
From Greystone up to there.
No, coming from the south up to the north,
South.
actually. Yeah, so there's a 12-inch line down there that CUD wants us to hook into that, drag a new water line up the west-hand side of the roadway on that side, because their existing 6-inch line is on the eastern side of the road. So that's not going to be adequate enough for what we were planning on doing with this property that you guys have further on the agenda tonight, and potentially some other properties involved in that outside of that project. We're going to take that, we're going to run an 8-inch line, 2,900 feet up that western side of the road to our entrance to development off that roadway there to allow us to get to our 1,000 gallons per minute and our 20 PSI on that pressure flow, so that we're meeting all the requirements from the town on that side. So that's the plan from a water standpoint on there. And then again, we'll have sewer and such on that side too as well. So, but that's kind of where we're kind of going from the water standpoint. Just want to let you guys know that's our options that we're out there, and we're choosing the 2,900 linear feet, so. But we do, I know hear your guys' point in regards to what you guys are looking at from the standpoint of Lee Road and those kinds of questions on that side. So if you guys feel it's pertinent to do, defer this for 1 month and the adjacent annexation process after that, I can agree to that tonight and come back next month and see how it goes.
Great. Any
Thank
other
you all.
questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
State your name for me again, I'm sorry.
Rob Mulchin.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all.
Uh-huh. Anyone else to speak for or against? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and go to council for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we defer this item for 1 month. Do we need to do that for just this item, there's a public hearing, and
Do
then
it
do
for
the
each
next
one,
item?
yes, do it.
Okay.
Okay. So we have a motion to defer. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second to defer. Any discussion? All in favor of deferring this, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes to defer. Okay, we'll move on to item E, which is also a public hearing in consideration of an ordinance relative to the annexation in PRD and R1 zoning of property located on tax map 50, parcel 33.02, and part of parcels 33.00 and 72.00, requested by Oliver Constable on behalf of two different property owners containing 47.83 acres. The property is located on Lee Road and Rocky Fork Road. Kevin?
Yes, this is the annexation request. This is for, it's for property has fronted on Lee Road, kind of southwest of the intersection of those two tracts of land. Land use plan would support medium-density, single-family residential development in this area, and surrounding zoning is RM in Rutherford County. As a part of this request, staff did recommend annexation, as we discussed earlier, of approximately 4,542 linear feet of the existing right-of-way of Lee Road and approximately 1,405 linear feet of the existing right-of-way of Jordan Lane. This PRD is for 88 lots on 41.66 acres, with the remaining 6.17 acres to be zoned R1. Houses would be a minimum of 1,800 square feet of living area with a two-car garage. Materials would be a mix of brick, stone, and cement board siding. All requirements of the town with regards to open space parking and setbacks would be met. This property does have some floodplain on it, and so they would be required to be in compliance with Article 9 of the zoning ordinance, which you all just adopted tonight. Again, one access point is shown at Lee Road with a stub street to the west and a potential access to either the existing Rocky Fork Road in the interim, and then the new Rocky Fork McEwen Drive connector route long-term. This proposed route does cross the site, would be accommodated as a part of the project. In addition, the existing 20-foot prescriptive right-of-way for Jordan Lane is within this project's limits, and the developer has proposed that this road would be abandoned and eliminated with the development, except for an access easement to houses that are two different houses on adjacent tracts which do utilize it for access. The Planning Commission did recommend approval. There were 4 conditions. One, to add the turn lane, left turn lane into the site at the main entrance. But the required minimum fire flow is 1,000 gallons per minute at 20 PSI, and as CUD has indicated that this fire flow can't be met at this time, no plats could be approved until a timeline for improvements to correct this issue has been established. Development of this property will require hydrologic and hydraulic study to be submitted for review due to the proposed floodplain alterations, which would ultimately lead to a letter of map revision application to FEMA. And then a landscape buffer is required between lots 62 to 65 and the proposed Rocky Fork Road McEwen Drive connector. And with those conditions, staff would also recommend approval.
Questions for Kevin?
Kevin's thorough, if nothing else.
He is. I think he goes home and works on that at night.
Okay, on, Mark, you said that they agreed to do the turn lane without the traffic study, but we still have this on here, so did we decide to keep it from the last meeting, or did we agree to
Yeah,
the turn
There
lane?
was discussion about a traffic study, and then, this was amended at first reading to add for a turn lane in lieu of the traffic study.
Okay.
Right, the
So it
left
just
turn
ain't
lane
been
into the side.
updated on here,
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, other questions for Kevin? Seeing none, we'll go to the public to see if there's anyone here to speak for or against this item. Seeing none, I'll go to council for a motion.
Motion to defer this item as well.
A motion to defer, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of deferring this item, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion is deferred. Jeff, so do I need to do F?
Just because it's an action item, I would go ahead and do it.
Consideration of a resolution and memorandum of ordinance 23-22 relative to the annexation in PRD and R1 zoning of property located on tax map 50, parcel 33.02, and part of parcels 33.00 and 72.00. Do I have a motion to defer?
Motion to defer.
I have a motion to defer. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion is deferred. We'll now move on to our public hearing for consideration of an ordinance adopting the budget for the fiscal year 23-24. Hey, Rex.
Hello, Mayor and Council. The ordinance and summarized budget for fiscal year 23-24 are submitted for your consideration. I've attached the changes from first read to workshop to second read spreadsheets for your convenience. It details the budget changes from what was presented at the first reading. We ask that you approve the ordinance.
Questions for Rex on this? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the budget?
Motion to approve the budget.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Oh, wait,
Yeah, we
it's a
have
public
public
hearing.
hearing.
Why did nobody stop me?
I started to, but there was a motion.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I guess we just, yeah, what were you doing, Jeff?
I was trying to wave off.
Okay,
Or not
so
the motion,
this
fix
is,
the remaining motion, just like-
okay, so there is a public, so do we need to do anything with the motion in second, or,
I think, go ahead and do your public hearing.
Okay.
And then we can come back to it.
okay, so at this time, I will ask this public if there's anyone here to speak for or against the budget. Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. Now, do I need to go get another motion, or can we use the same motion?
If you'll just restate it, I think that'd be great.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adopt the budget for the fiscal year 23-24?
I make a motion to adopt it again.
Thank you. Do we have a second again?
Second.
Okay. Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Budget passes. Item H, public hearing, consideration of an ordinance adopting the property tax rate for fiscal year 23-24. Rex?
Yes, ma'am. The tax rate ordinance establishes the property tax rate for fiscal year 23 and 24. Our recommendation is for the tax rate to remain the same from the prior year at 52.57 cents on each $100 of assessed taxable property. We ask that you approve this ordinance.
Questions? Thank you. Questions for Rex on this? Seeing none, I'll go to the public to see if anyone is here to speak for or against our tax rate staying the same. Seeing none, I'll go to council for a motion.
Make a motion.
Have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Everybody asleep tonight? Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just for awareness, this is not, we are not the county. The county's in the news right now about potentially putting a tax increase on the county side of things. This is our city, and we are not doing that. So just for clarification, if you see something or hear something in the news about that, that is not Smyrna, that's Rutherford County.
Okay.
That's all.
Well, another thing that goes along those lines, very often when people receive notice from their mortgage owner that the escrow is going up and such as that, we kind of get caught in the drift of that because it rises so much because of the county rate. Ours is the same.
Has been for a while.
Has been for a while.
Any other discussion? We have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Tax rate passes.
Mayor, one thing to point out too for folks, and I think HG makes a good point, because a lot of folks don't see this until they get their escrows. Keep in mind too, I just got my insurance bill for July 1st, and property values have gone up, and because of property values escalating, insurance costs are escalating, and a lot of folks will not see that until they see it in their escrow, so.
It's not us either.
That's not us either. That's where the property assessment was done, and our property values have gone up.
Okay. We voted on that, didn't we? We did vote. Okay. So we're now under, y'all got me so confused. We're now under, I'm just lost, yes. Yes. Under new business, the Planning Commission report. Our first item is consideration of an ordinance relative to the annexation and PRD zoning of property located on tax map 54, parcel 4801, owned and requested by Portofino Alfredo, containing 4.21 acres. Properties located at 8732 Rocky Fork, Amaville Road. Kevin.
Yes, this is an annexation request for some property about 600 feet north of the intersection with Morton Lane at 8732 Rocky Fork, Allenville. Land use plan would support medium-density, single-family residential development in this area. Surrounding zoning is PUD, which is the Blakeney Commons PUD on one side, and the rest of the surrounding zoning is RM in Rutherford County. The town would be providing all services to this area except for water, which would be provided by Consolidated Utility District, and they have indicated there is adequate fire flow here to meet town requirements. There is an existing house with several accessory structures on this property which would be removed as a part of this development. The town has already annexed the existing right-of-way of Rocky Fork Allenville Road in front of this parcel. Development would require dedication of additional right-of-way to meet the major thoroughfare plan. This proposed PRD is for 33 townhomes on 4.21 acres, which is a density of 7.84 units per acre. The townhomes would be a minimum of 2,000 square feet, including a two-car garage, and would be constructed with a mix of brick and cement siding on the front and just cement siding on the sides and rear. All requirements of the town with regard to open space parking and setbacks would be met. Access would be via a single connection to Rocky Fork Allenville Road, and the internal street would be private. The Planning Commission did recommend approval, 3-4-1 against, with one condition, and that's just a clarification, and the condition that the sides and rear of all the buildings are required to be finished with cement siding. That wasn't indicated on the PUD information that was submitted. So per that recommendation, staff would recommend approval.
Questions for Kevin on this?
Kevin, refresh my memory. Blakeney Commons, what is in that? Is that homes, apartment, or homes and condos together, or what's in that one?
Blakeney Commons it's a commercial and townhome mix. The townhomes, there's about 80 townhomes in there, and then there's potentially 3 different commercial lots along Rocky Fork Allenville Road at that Morton Lane intersection.
Kevin, I'm going to ask you a question that I hadn't asked you in a long time, but I used to ask it on almost every development came in. You know what it's going to be, don't you?
I do.
So what zone would this fall in?
It would be R6.
See, the thing that bothers me about it is, I mean, and of course, the basic reason I hadn't asked that question in all these years is because all of them have outlying property for the most part. But this one, I mean, boy, that just looks dense to me.
Yeah, it's about 7.8. Let's say 7.84. I think the Blakeney Commons is a little less dense. I think the residential piece there is like 7.5. So it's a little bit less dense.
But there's no green space outside of, I mean, I see that it does have some green space, but I mean, it's not, it will not share green space with Blakeney Commons, I guess is what I'm asking.
That's correct. It's meeting the requirements on its own. It's a small tract of land, so there's not a lot of space because, of course, we don't require as much. Our percentage of the overall site is what we require, and so.
And what amenities are included in this?
They've got a playground and a dog park and some walking trail. small walking trail.
I've got the same concerns.
Well, this came to Planning Commission Thursday night, and we had a skeleton crew Thursday night. We only had 4 of us here. There wasn't much discussion that was able to take place. And I was the dissenting vote. I was the one that chose not to support it, and I'll give my reason why. What I'm beginning to see is a pattern of these 3, 4, 5 acre tracts processing nothing but townhomes. And, you know, if you like that, okay. And if you don't, okay. Everybody's got their choice in the matter. But my concern is, because we've had a couple of these in the past, and it seems like the smaller parcels are all becoming townhome parcels. And I'm all for a larger development, having a good mix, where you have a little bit of everything in there. It's community. But for me on this one, that's why I chose to not see it as a fit.
Agree. Council, anything else?
Nothing that's not already been said. As I was just looking through it, that was my first thought, is it just seems a lot more dense and a lot more small with that piece of property. It's kind of, it just doesn't fit.
How many units is that, Kevin?
33.
33.
Yeah, so.
It's almost 8 an acre.
Well, and R6 allows up to 14 and a half, really. So it's not as dense as R6 would be, but it's still dense. And again, it's not so much even that as it is, are we going to set a precedent where every little 4 acre tract that a farmer owns becomes a townhome development? I don't know.
Just seems that we've approved a lot of townhomes.
Seems
lately.
like it, and if we don't start paying more attention to these smaller pods, grabbing up land and trying to develop it out like that, we go back to the one we had the deferment on, you know, there's your example. We're going to get into some road issues pretty quickly if they're all townhomes. You know, we're just putting a lot of density in there. Brian, will you kind of pick us up a little bit up to date on what we're doing with the Rocky Fork Amelville study? And what's going on out there right now with engineering?
Yeah, I think the Rocky Fork Amelville study as a whole is completed. I think in this budget we just approved tonight, I think we've got a 1 mile, 1 mile of that road that we're going ahead and starting with. But, you know, the concept would be is that as we go forward, we'll also look for those opportunities to partner when a development comes in. But we've got several miles of road that's going to have to be updated because that's basically a two-lane, no-shoulder road. And when you start putting the density not only of the townhomes, if you approve this tonight, going forward, but you also have a lot of homes. We all know that area is expanding rapidly. Rocky Fork, Amelville, Cooks Lane, Lee Road, all of those, all the way back to Enid Springs West, is a very high volume area for us for growth. So that's where we're currently at.
Okay. Any other questions? Do you have a motion?
I make a motion to deny the request.
A motion to deny. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to deny. Any discussion? All in favor of denial, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is denied. Item 2, consideration of an ordinance relative to amend the PRD for property located on tax map 49, parcels 2.00 and 2.02, requested by Aib Ishak on behalf of Vinyara Homes Company. Kevin?
Yeah, this is a request on Old Nashville Highway, about 700 feet northwest of the intersection with Pioneer Drive. Land use plan would support medium-density, single-family residential in this area. Surrounding zoning is R1 and PRD, which is the villas at Stewartsboro Phase 1. This existing approved PRD is for 35 townhomes on 3.03 acres, which is a density of about 11.55 per acre. This would be developed as the villas of Stewartsboro Phase 2. The requested amendment is to change the minimum building square footage from 1,700 square feet of living area to 1,700 square feet. This would have the effect of including the single-car garage square footage and the overall building square footage, which would make the actual living area about 1,450 or so square feet. All other facets of the existing approved PRD would remain the same. So the number of units, the parking, open space, all those things would remain the same. It's just the amount of, or the building square footage. The Planning Commission did review this, did recommend denial of the request, 4 for and 0 against. And per that recommendation, staff would also recommend denial.
Council, any questions? Planning Commission and staff have recommended denial.
Yeah, so, couple of comments. So, standard garage, 20 by 20 is 400 square feet. So if you include that, that means.
It's only a single car garage.
Okay, so 20 by 10 roughly?
Roughly.
So that means about 1,500 square feet is what the living
It was-
space would be.
I think the building plans they had submitted, they were about 1450, 1460, I think, and then the single car garage.
And the existing PRD is approved for 35 townhomes. So even though they're reducing square footage, they still couldn't add more townhomes, could they?
No.
Kevin, this one fell under our old parking regs, if I recall.
Correct. Yeah,
Right?
which doesn't
So
have enough.
It's plenty, yep. Well, we've adjusted that and fixed that, but.
Yeah.
Okay. So do I have a motion?
Move to deny.
A motion to deny. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of denial, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is denied. Item 3 is consideration of an ordinance relative to the rezoning of property located on tax map 28, part of parcels 113.00 and 113.01 to go from R3 to PRD. It's requested by Josh Hooper on behalf of the Beacon Properties. The properties requested to be rezoned contain approximately 5.62 acres and are located south of Rock Springs Road. Kevin?
Yes, this is a rezoning request. It's for property south of Rock Springs Road. It's near the intersection with Medical Park. The land use plan would support medium-density, single-family residential in this area. Surrounding zoning is a mix of C4, R1, and R3. This proposed PRD is for 54 apartments on 5.62 acres for a density of about 9.61 units per acre. The apartments would be restricted to age 62 plus. The proposed building would be 3 stories in height, up to 69,000 square feet in size. The materials would be a mix of brick, stone, and cement siding. All requirements of the town with regard to open space and parking would be met. A portion of this property does lie within the 100-year floodplain and floodway, so development would require compliance with Article 9 of the zoning ordinance. The development would access Rock Springs Road at a new location with a public street, and would also connect to an existing street at Addison Drive. The portions of both parcels which are not proposed to be rezoned would remain zoned R1 or R3 and could be developed in that manner in the future. The Planning Commission did review this request, recommended approval, 4-0 against, with the following conditions. 1, the fire department access drives and turnarounds are required to meet the requirements of the fire code, and that no construction traffic would be allowed on Spring Hill Drive and Johnstown Drive for this project. So the bridge, which will be crossing the creek from Rock Springs Road, will have to be constructed before construction can begin on the building. And the connection to Addison Drive would be required to be kept closed until completion of the construction of the apartment building. So,
That slide is, yeah, that's Enterprise.
yes, that is. I don't know what happened there.
I was really confused.
Jerry's over off the road.
I didn't even notice. I was reading and.
It's not just me tonight, Kevin.
That's
Is that what you're
right.
saying?
I was in the zone looking at my paper, I'm sorry.
Okay, good, Kevin.
And so I don't know what happened there. I know we had the slides from Thursday night.
But the slides we have in front of us are correct.
The slides in your packet should be correct,
Correct.
just the maps and everything in the packet of information, which is this, is there.
So
So,
62 plus, everybody in the unit has to be 62 plus.
that's correct.
Okay. In having, I know that we have a meeting planned with our housing authority, but in some discussions with them, I don't see in the near future that anything is going to be done. And I think that we really have to think about not just senior housing, but affordable senior housing. And I know that's what this project brings before us. I will say one of the things I like better than when I originally saw it. They came to sit down to meet with me. I do like the look of this much better. It's not as institutional looking as what it was, so I really appreciate that. So I think that's where I stand on this.
One of the things we discussed at planning, again, was just to clarify, this is not like Section 8 housing.
Right.
This is senior living, basically, is what it is. It's a complex for seniors that have struggles with meeting rent at the normal market rate. It's based on income and the general rate average in the greater Nashville area. So they'll take that at like a 60% rate, if I recall. I think that's correct. So in addition to that, because it's senior living, to me, being a couple blocks from the hospital for our seniors makes a lot of common sense. I know when Kevin read this, and he's read it for what it is, called it apartments. But to me, this is a senior living rental capacity. Only seniors can live there with elevators, right?
Yeah.
So this is not your common apartment complex. This is something to meet the needs of, to me, our Smyrna community just has none of. And so I think we have to look at that aspect of it and think about our senior population that cannot afford pretty much anything anywhere else.
Kevin, would all of this kind of fall under an HOA, or how would that work?
No, it would be it was not an HOA because there's no homeowners here. This would all be a property management. It'd be the owner, talking with the developer, they are an owner and manager as well. So they would be owning this for the foreseeable future and be maintaining everything.
How many elevators in that building?
I believe my understanding is one.
That's what I thought.
Just one?
One elevator, it's 3 stories, but there's 54 units in the 3 stories. But
It's just one building, is it not?
it's one building,
Yeah.
yeah.
I certainly see what you guys are saying, and I'm definitely not against seniors because I could be living there.
No, you make too much.
You'd have to pay double rent.
No, I'm on fixed income.
We're all on fixed income. I didn't change last month.
I guess what I'm saying is, I know, Mark, you talked a few minutes ago about the, basically putting townhomes or whatever on different pieces of property that nothing else will fit. And I kind of have a little concern about that here. And I also got a concern, we talk about consistency. We've got an R3 there. We're going to put this up against it. We got homes there. Kind of had an issue, several months ago on something close to this area. So I guess that's my only issue with it is that we're putting something else there right up against a neighborhood that's an R3, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, about 15 homes, I think, maybe more than that backs up to it. And then you've got, I know you said it was surrounded by C4. I think we're talking about C4s in the vicinity. It's not necessarily adjacent to it, correct?
It is adjacent to on the other side of the creek, yes, in that area, yeah. That's where the C4 is.
Okay, right up in this area
and
here.
then R1 and R3.
Up in this area here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Along Rock Springs Road.
Okay, then you got your R1.
And then R1 and R3.
Okay. But anyway, that's just my only concern about it is that we're putting something else there that again is going to be backing up to some homes. Just my thoughts.
What, do we have any idea of what kind of plans there are for the rest of that property there?
Well, they shown like, conceptually at least, some R3 lots on the south side of the new street, one of the new streets they would be building.
I was talking about the R1 property more than anything else.
A lot of that property on the between kind of the new road and the creek, there's quite a bit of that is in the floodplain. Some of that is actually in the floodway. They have submitted a flood study, which is, again, which we mentioned they would be required to do. And so there is a possibility that there could be some of that area could be, could be some cut and fill balance done, and there might be some buildable lots on the other side of that street as well. That's not been indicated on these plans, they've just indicated the 7 lots on the south side, matching up to the existing lots that are on the already existing lots there.
They would be R3 lots back.
There are 3, they would all be R3 minimum lots, yes.
Which ones are you talking about?
There's the 7 lots are kind of highlighted
Yeah, I
on
see
the
the
drawing.
7 at the bottom, right.
Yeah, what I was talking about, there's potential for some property on the other side of that street. There is some floodplain and floodway there. At this time, they're basically leaving that open. It would all be owned and maintained by this developer. It may be in the future that some of those, if there's some cut and fill balance possibility, there may be some residential lots over there, single-family residential lots, R3 type lots there as well.
And then, what are we looking at further north of it? No, it's not north. The larger piece above where the apartments are.
Yeah, that's a kind of partially has a different zoning and a little bit of part of the different part. One of the 2 parcels, there's a little small triangular area, and then this other part, the larger part of it is 1 part tract. But again, that's primarily in the floodway or floodplain, and so that's really most likely. Some of that area was used because the current property owner also owns the C4 zoned area, and they did fill on that side, and part of the area they removed was on the
other side of the creek, the C4?
Yes. The C4 area was filled, and the area to create that cut fill balance, they removed some soil and created some additional storage area on the south side of the creek. That area is, quite frankly, probably always going to have to be left pretty much open because of the floodway and floodplain is in that area. It'll either be owned by this developer if this is approved, or it'll be owned by, potentially it could be part of some of the single family lots if they get created and there's something works there or something like that. But
So I met with this developer before as well, and kind of looked at what they were looking at. And generally, when I first heard apartments, I was not excited. But then once I saw the product and kind of understood the concept, I have 2 family members that live in Smyrna Housing Authority facilities now. One of them, it took us 2.5 years just to get him on the waiting list. So the need in Smyrna is very great. And with the conversations that we've had, I don't think the Smyrna Housing Authority has any plans to build more facilities at this time, right? I don't think they have anything, I know they don't have anything underway. So there's a shortage, there's a need, and there's not really a solution except for this type of development. And that's really what my thought process is if this was just regular rental apartments, I would not be able to support it. But because of the 62 and over restrictions, this particular property is a challenge. Almost all of the undeveloped land is in the 100-year floodplain or the floodway. So for anyone else to come in and develop anything else would be very difficult. They would only be able to get 7 or 8, maybe 10 homes on the whole piece of property if you did R3 or R1. So
Well, they couldn't do that because the doggone bridge is going to be $1 million.
right. So I mean, there's not a lot of options for this particular piece of property other than a dense facility like this, and the only way that I support density like this would be for benefit of the seniors.
Well, one thing we've not talked a lot about is the opening onto Rock Springs Road there. That's going to be huge.
True. Yeah, it does also, open up, I guess, Addison Drive and another entrance in and out of that subdivision.
Have you had any calls from anybody to comment on it? Okay.
I know that the developer had a neighborhood meeting as well, and so that helped probably with some of that. But
And based on the current drawing I'm seeing, there's about 6 houses that kind of back up to really the area where the parking lot and everything would be, and there's
A lot of green space
there's a
between
significant buffer and green space between those. So, the other
Yeah.
houses, the 8 or 9 on the other side, all back up to other R3. So I think it's probably a best-case scenario for this piece of property, the way that it's designed and laid out.
Other comments? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
A motion to approve, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Motion passes. Item B is Package Liquor Board report. There were no applications for the town council to consider at this time. Item C is consideration of an ordinance amending Town of Smyrna Municipal Code Title II, Chapters 2, 4, 5, and 7 relative to board and committee terms and term limits. Jeffrey L.
Yes, Mayor and Council, as we've discussed for several months, Council wanted to create some consistency and uniformity with the boards that we have on as far as the length of terms and also term limits. So the one that you have before you on item C is Chapter 2, which would include Parks Advisory Board, the Project Assistance Board, Sister City Committee, Charity Assistance Fund Board, Memorial Maintenance and Special Projects Subcommittee, and the Sister City Funding Committee. And it would just make those 3-year terms with 2 term limits.
Council, we've had quite a bit of discussion about this. Any questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
A motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item D is consideration of an ordinance amending Town of Smyrna Municipal Code Title 8, Chapters 2 and 3, relative to board and committee terms and term limits. Jeff?
Likewise, this would just apply, this is going to be 3-year terms with term limits of 2 unless a suitable candidate cannot be found, just as the others. This is in Title 8, so this will be for the beer board and also the packaged liquor board.
Questions for Jeff on this? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
A motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item E, consideration and ordinance amending Town of Smyrna Municipal Code Title 14, Chapter 5, relative to board and committee terms and term limits. Jeff?
Yes, Mayor, just as the previous two, this would affect 2 3-year terms for the Stormwater Advisory Committee.
Questions for Jeff? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second, sorry.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Thought HG was still awake.
Oh, he's asleep. Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item F, consideration of an ordinance amending the town's municipal code Title 12, Building and Utility Codes, Chapter 6, Residential Code, Sections 12-602, 603, and 604.
Yes, Mayor and Council. If you recall, in the workshop, Jason and Jeremy had worked on this. For the most part, which you'll notice with your red line, it's the table as well as the references to the International Residential Code that is being clarified and pointed out specifically that the building codes will be enforcing.
Questions for Jeff on this? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Oh, you woke up.
You heard his name.
Y'all doing such a good job, I didn't want to break up with it.
Thanks. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Move on to item G, which is consideration of an ordinance relative to a budget amendment for fiscal year '23. Rex?
Mayor and Council, this is an estimate of some line items that could be over budget by June 30, and this is an effort to get the amendments completed prior to the year end. We ask that you approve these.
Any questions for Rex on this? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
A motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Item H is appointment of one member to the Project Assistance Board to serve an unexpired term ending in 2024. This is appointed, council nomination and then majority council confirmation. And we had two people apply, Chris Schneck and Cherry Tuck. I will open the floor for nominations.
I will nominate Cherry Tuck.
Anyone else? And I will close the floor to nominations, and since we only had one nominee and one appointment, all in favor of Cherry Tuck, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations. I know we have a couple of things under other tonight. Brian?
A couple of things I'd like to share with you. First, there's a contract that has come to our attention that we need to move forward with quickly, the Loomis contract. As you remember, we received a microwave antenna from the county a few months ago. That was to help with us having secondary feed back to the police department and fire departments for our radio service. We currently have a 2 megabyte connection. We need to accelerate that to a 20 megabyte just based on the amount of traffic that goes through that line. That way we can shore up our redundancy in case we have something happen. Now, please understand, if something catastrophic happens in the community, there is still a chance that we could lose communications, but this does everything we can to keep the redundancy at the level we need it. I will tell you there's one other piece to this that will be coming forward, and that's the control arm. I call it the control arm, the mast arm. Sorry, Steve, I had to say mast arm. The mast arm that, yeah, I know, that connects the satellite to the tower. The tower, we need to secure that to where it doesn't move when the wind blows and stuff and takes us off the line in the connection. But we do need to get this 20 megabyte line in place, and we can get that done quickly with your approval tonight as an emergency purchase to move forward with that Loomis contract.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
So Brian, just so I understand, I'm looking at it, so we already have one 20 megabit.
No, we only have 2 operating off of that current line. We're enhancing it to the 20.
Right. The contract we have in front of us shows a new one that we're renewing and then a new one that we're adding.
Right, and the new one's at 2. I think it says 20 on there, but I think that's a mistake. I think it's 20, going to a 20, and it's a 2 currently.
Okay.
So that may be a typo, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. I was just trying to understand it, so good.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. You have-
Yes, Mayor and Council, I have something else I'd like to share with you tonight. As you know, the project of a century has been going on down on Lowry Street. We have completed, in fact, with the passing of the one item tonight with Sessions completes that. But what has happened is with the Lowry Street project, basically Lowry Street was all that was within the scope of the TDOT project. So we knew there were going to be some secondary issues that we were going to deal with. So what I'm showing you here tonight is a before picture at Sam Hager Drive going in. And this was one of the areas we knew we were going to probably have some conflicts on our street. But we've been working for a while now to kind of get a plan together of how we attack this. So if we go to the next picture, you're going to see the after. So what has happened because of ADA compliance, we had to put the truncated dome crossings and we had to use the curb as a protector for the pedestrian standing on the sidewalks versus the cars in the past have been kind of making that rounded corner. That's required. That is required under ADA compliance. Now, the other thing that I want you to look at, if we could go back to the last slide for just a second. If you notice down the side wall of the red brick building, which is now the Red Bicycle, go to the second slide, you'll see that some of the power connections and those kind of things on the rehab of that building are now on that side of the wall. We also would like to continue a sidewalk down that side of that building, and there's really not enough room to get that sidewalk in there. And now that the construction's done, what's happening is the road has pushed back to the curb. If you remember before, we had about 6 to 8 foot section that was being used as a construction entrance, so it was easier to make those turns. That's a very narrow street. Now with the curbing, go back to the other, you'll see that it tightened that road up quite a bit. And that was one of the things we were concerned about through this project on Lowry Street. So it was tight all
When you were trying
along.
to turn, I mean, you were worried you were going to hit,
Right.
when you go back to the other one, you were worried you were going to hit the electric pole, and now it comes out even further, and so you're really
Yes.
concerned. It is.
Even before to turn right into there, especially if there's a car waiting.
Yes.
And that was, again, that was some of the conversation we were having about this street, and then I'll talk about one other in a few minutes. But one of the things we are considering, if you'll go to the next slide, if you look at the overall, if you look where Sam Hager there, about center of the screen, you see the little dot kind of thing marking that spot. The other thing that we've had some concerns about is if you're coming out of Hager to turn left or right on the Lowry Street from there, number one, if you're turning left, you're very quickly into that no turn lane that has gone away right there before you get to Washington. And it's not real good visibility because of the red bicycle. It has nothing to do with that it's the red bicycle. It's just with that new sidewalk configuration that TDOT mandated for ADA compliance, it's hard to get out there and see whether you're turning left or right. So one of the things that we've been talking about and what we'd like to propose as a fix for this would be to take Sam Hager coming off of Lowry Street and from Lowry Street to Second Avenue, make that a one-way street going in. Then when you get to Second Avenue, you can move that traffic either down to Jackson or the next street, or also you can come back over to Washington Street, which is a one-way that comes out with the red light. Now, I'll tell you, some people say, well, that's a problem because the red light doesn't work very well. Well, during all this construction, the red light, the loops were broken, and now the loops are fixed, and we have the ability to control that light again and set some patterns of traffic. But that would, I think, clear up a lot of issues on that one section, and that's one of the possibilities that Charles and Tom and I have been talking about for a little while. But our recommendation would be to make that a one-way entrance only off of Lowry, no outgoing traffic for the safety not only of the visibility of being able to turn, but also how slim that road is. Now, talking about the sidewalks and, why did we put the sidewalks? If you look at our overall plan of what we've got proposed for the downtown area, this sidewalk program would take you from actually down at the McDonald's. If you look at what we're doing with the sidewalks coming up Lowry Street all the way up to Enon Springs, then if you look at what we're doing with the Washington Street crossover with the pedestrian crossings with CSX, and then we've got a plan to take a sidewalk this next year from Front Street down to where the new townhomes are being built on Rock Springs Road with an overall proposal to get sidewalks from Front Street all the way around Rock Springs to Old Nashville Highway, pick up the sidewalks at Old Nashville Highway, come back up to Enon Springs, and then down Enon Springs back into Front Street. The concept is long-term, and that's why I'm going that deep into this right now, is I want you to see the total picture of what the mobility would be for our, folks downtown that need that accessibility by walking and getting through on the sidewalks. It was very important to keep those sidewalks as a priority in that Lowry Street overlay as we did this project. So again, I'll revert back to and open it up for questions, but the recommendation from the town manager and the engineering staff would be that we make Sam Hager a one-way in off of Lowry to Second Avenue and then disperse the traffic behind there.
So, I have two questions, Brian. So the proposal would be one lane on Sam Hager in, I assume kind of centered in that existing 2 lanes, so that you have room for sidewalk on the right side?
We'd have room for the sidewalk, yes, sir.
And then when you get to Second Avenue, if you were coming out, when you get to Second Avenue, I assume there would be a stop sign there with
There would
you
be a
gotta
stop
turn
sign.
left or right
Yeah, you'd
kinda
have a
thing.
stop sign on both sides of Sam Hager and Second now. So Sam Hager would no longer be a through street. You'd have the stop sign. Second Avenue would be the through, and you'd make your left or right turn, come in either direction.
Or just, we would have to rely, I guess, initially on just signage and
Oh, absolutely.
markings.
We would do a lot of work with social media to get the story out, and we'd make sure we put up, a lot of signs. We even considered, before the sidewalk's done, going ahead and making that a one-way street and put barrels and stuff out to get everybody's attention,
used to it, yeah.
to learn that new traffic pattern.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking of the road over beside Logan's and Panera. We get kind of the same thing.
Yep.
And I just know that for the first 6 months, every time I was over there, somebody was going the wrong way down the road.
Yeah,
So
it's a learning experience, and,
Yeah, some of
it'll
it's
take
still-
time for everybody to get used to it, but I think it makes for a lot safer condition. It also enhances our ability to continue the mobility of the sidewalks and stuff, so.
I like it. I think that's going to help with traffic flow as well on Lowry, because there's been several times that I've had people, or I've seen people try to make that left turn up out of Sam Hager and kind of
Yes.
pull out and block the road and slow things down. And then, of course, there's obviously options for accidents there, but by forcing that traffic down to Washington where there's a red light, you're making it a much safer crossing, much safer process, and improving traffic flow.
Yeah, and even if they go left and go down Jackson, and I forget the name of the street on the other side of the Shell station there, it's a lot better visibility and a little easier to get out in that traffic. The other thing we hope will happen is traffic coming across the railroad tracks, coming to Lowry Street. Right now, we've got a lot of folks that are turning right and trying to make that first left, and that's pretty dangerous because you got all that traffic coming to the red light. This should ease that traffic, could turn left and go to Sam Hager and make that right, since there's no cars to stop them from making that, wider loop and get in there. It should siphon that position up. And as I said, we knew this opportunity was going to present itself. It's just, we've been trying to come up with a good resolve. We had to kind of wait till we saw exactly what was going to happen with all the construction on the Lowry Street side. This, I think, is a pretty good solution to what we've got to deal with.
And I like what you're saying too, Brian. I was going to say the same thing. I'm one of those that makes that right turn and goes down the other way, because I don't use Sam Hager either way.
Yeah, and if
This will
Sam
actually
Hager is
look it
just
up.
open for nothing but inlet traffic, it should make that a lot easier.
Well, I'm going to be honest, as that area, I mean, this is even further down the road, but as that area potentially continues to develop, I could see those one-way streets stretching on back, right? I mean, it just makes sense.
Yep.
I can be in agreement as long as it doesn't take as long for that as it has for Lowry Street.
Well, let me tell you.
This is ours.
This is ours. We can do this pretty quickly, because really, there's not a lot of construction on this project right now, other than the striping and the signs and those kind of
Really
things,
just
but
Signage and striping initially, right?
that's all we're gonna need to do, and we can get that done.
Great.
We can make this change. Now,
I've got some spray paint if you need help.
no, we're good. Thank you, Steve, but we do appreciate
He's
it.
got a mask on.
I was gonna say,
He's got a
in his
mask on in his garage.
I ordered one 2 years ago because I knew we were going to have a project.
The other part of this that I want to make everybody aware of, and we've talked about this before, is that Lowry Street and Sam Davis, where you turn in there at Pinnacle Bank, because of the ADA compliance, they had to come in and level that crosswalk across the road, and there's a bit of a hump. We know it's there. We're working on it. Again, this is outside the scope of the TDOT project. We're working with our engineers right now to get a resolve on how we can cut that down and blend it back into the road. Just on that one, we're going to have to be a little bit patient because it's going to take a little time to get that done, get the engineering done, and then get a company in here and make those changes. Sam Hager, with your blessings, we can move forward pretty quickly on this one.
So you're saying the other one's going to take as long as Lowry Street? but
No,
Sam
it's not
Hager's
going to take as long as Lowry Street, I promise. It's not going to take that long because it is one of our streets. We've got to get the engineering done to know.
See what I did there? I got to admit, it wasn't going to take that long.
That's right.
I promise you, these are high on our priority list.
Promised.
Yeah, he promised.
Yeah.
I think it sounds like we're in favor of Hager, and the other one will do, and Sam Davis obviously is just waiting until we get that road
Okay.
cut.
Let me say, that whole corridor right there, that project took way longer. We know that. TDOT governed all that. It was not our project, but it took a whole lot longer. But the finished product is coming along now. Downtown is really starting to shape up based on a vision that we had years and years ago. So the lamp posts, the things that are cut, the crosswalks, all those things that are coming in downtown now are what we had a vision for, what we began to budget for many, many years ago. So as
Well,
much as sometimes people, it's their nature, they find something wrong with something that we've, done. But I will say this, I'm so much grateful to have what we have down there now compared to what we used to have down there before.
Well, and I think, the improvements that the town is investing in from the roads and that kind of stuff, if you also look, we're seeing a lot of buildings being changed, a lot more.
They're buying in.
A lot of economy coming into that area with the restaurants and the different things. I know some of us were at Simply Smyrna this weekend, and for the first time I had a chance to walk in the old theater building there on Front Street, and I was just amazed how nice that turned out. So there's a lot of positive things happening that's going to change the character, I think, of that downtown area. That's something that the community should be very proud of. I know the roads have been somewhat of a blemish from the standpoint of the community thinking that we weren't following up and not doing. There's just a lot of pieces to a puzzle like this. We're still working on the mast, or not the mast arms, you got me thinking mast arms, the railroad crossings at Washington. And in fact, I got an email tonight from our assistant town attorney where we're working on that easement. I don't know if some of you noticed, the arms are already up. They just haven't put the arms on the railroad. They're already up for the pedestrian crossings and stuff. And, when we can make that connectivity between downtown and back, or uptown and over to Front Street and stuff, it's just going to continue to enhance the traffic, the people in the area with Zama Park and all those things that we've done. It should be something we all could be proud of. Now, I say all that to say there's still some work to be done.
Always will be.
There's some
As
things.
you branch out and go down Lowry.
We
there's
were
more work.
talking about Front Street. I was down there the other day with Tom, one of our engineers, and we were standing on the side of the roundabout in a 15-mile-an-hour speed zone, and I promise you, if I'd had Andy Miller with me, some of those vehicles were going close to 50 miles an hour coming through there. There's going to have to be some things changed to help distribute that traffic on that side of the road and maybe slow some folks down a little bit.
You have to get some more Andy Miller cutouts.
I got another idea.
Anything else?
No, ma'am. So with your blessings, we're going to move forward with the Sam Hager change. That's not anything we have to vote on. It's just we wanted to make sure everybody was comfortable with it.
Okay, status reports. Rex, do you want to talk a little bit about our state shared and local?
April state share tax, we received $773,106. April local sales tax, we received $1,784,941, and sales tax is coming in above budget.
Right.
Rex, am I reading this right? The sales tax has already surpassed 2021 total?
Yeah.
Keep shopping local, everybody. Keep shopping.
It's a good message. Good results.
Okay. Announcements. Directors, department heads, any announcements tonight? Mikey Mike.
He volunteered, too.
He
To be
did.
brief.
Okay.
I did want to I've been contacted, Brian let me know, and I think the mayor and a couple other people. There is a grant for an all-inclusive playgrounds through the state, and it's through the Tennessee Department of Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Department. And we're looking at applying for that. It's $500,000 max, but it's $2.5 million across the state. So we're trying to weigh out how much we would want to ask for. So I'm going to be meeting with a couple of people next week about a couple of options. One of the options that I've looked at, just because infrastructure exists, is Hilltop Park. That playground is 20-plus years old, and it's got a large parking lot, lighting's already there, and I think they're looking for shovel-ready projects. So that is one that I've kicked around, and want to make sure I made that announcement because it's coming quick. They made the grant announcement at the end of May, and they're taking the applications June 30th. So just in case, it does not call for a resolution, but I want to let the council know just in case you heard anything and make sure that everybody's on board to even, consider that.
I was excited to see the grant opportunity and that the state is seeing the importance of that.
Yes, ma'am. And I'm sure, there's no guarantee. I'm sure there's several people going to be vying for that 2.5 million.
Absolutely.
But to me, if you plant the seed, it may happen again next year or
Yeah.
if more funding comes available.
Questions for Mike? Thank you, sir. Amber?
No, ma'am, I just want to say Happy Father's Day to all the fathers. That's it.
Brian?
Just a couple of things real quick. I wanted to share I think most of you have seen the email I sent out, but just want to recognize the passing of Mark Hardy's brother. Was kind of a unforeseen thing, and I know his family would appreciate our prayers. The office will be closed on June the 19th to celebrate Juneteenth. I always like to remind folks that our police, fire, parks, wastewater, water plant, and golf course will still be open, but our the main offices will be closed. I did receive a nice letter that came through Chief Irvin's office a couple weeks ago, in lieu of some things that have happened in our community with mass shootings and stuff in Nashville. The Human Resources Department at First Community Mortgage reached out, and Sergeant Gibson from our police department went down and did an active shooter training with them, and they were very appreciative. And I guess it's okay to let you know some other departments were contacted and didn't respond, so Smyrna stepped up and responded, so appreciate Sergeant Gibson. We had a pinning ceremony this past week. I want to congratulate our new police officers, Lauren Bear, Carrie Meyer, Alexander Fisher, Brian Tyree, on their recent pinning and graduations from the academy. We also had a couple of promotions that I'd like to highlight. Patrol Sergeant Joshua Johnson, Patrol Corporal Robert Cash, and Dispatch Supervisor Claire Fultz. Claire Fultz, it was her day to show off. She was also recognized as Dispatcher of the Year as our supervisor. And then we also introduced to the departments our Public Safety Counselor, Amanda Dooley, and she's done a great job and has been very active with our police and fire department, working with our folks, so appreciate her. We had a ribbon cutting at Luttrell Staffing this past week. Todd took it on the chin for us. He went out there as the only representative of the town. That was one of those days where there was about 15 things going on, but Todd, we appreciate you representing the town with the chamber and all the diplomats out there, and we welcome Luttrell Staffing Group to Smyrna. Next thing I have is a couple of things that are happening on the same night and really are part of a big night for us. That's this Friday night down at the SOAC. We'll have Family Fun Night. This one got my attention, and I know it will several of yours, because we got cool-off time with free ice pops and free ice cream sandwiches. Try to get there before me, because if my wife's with me, the ice cream sandwiches will be gone. She loves ice cream. But also that night on the lawn there at SOAC is our second live concert on the lawn, and it'll be Pontiac Alley. I will be honest, I've not heard them, but I've heard so much about them, and I know they have a pretty good following. But Pontiac Alley will be performing on June the 9th. That's this Friday night from 6 to 9 p.m. Come down and listen to some good music and enjoy some time with your family and have some free ice cream sandwiches. So we're looking forward to that. The last thing I have, and I always finish with love where you live. Folks, we continue to battle the war on trash on our streets. We appreciate everybody taking into consideration to either put their litter in a garbage can at some of the commercial places here in town, or take it home with you. Don't throw it out on our streets. I will tell you, our friends out at Seven Oaks, they continue to be diligent. I get an email about once a week from them about what they've picked up on the back street, and they love to brag about how it's trimmed down quite a bit. But Chief, they did tell me that if we wanted to write some DUIs, they think we might be able to do something out there, because it appears that every once in a while we have a little beer party out there or something, and we get a few cans on the side of the road. So if we had a lot of citizens like our friends at Seven Oaks that's taking the litter in their area that serious, Smyrna would be a prettier place to look at. But love where you live. Please don't litter. And I'll leave the rest for HG. Nothing for me, Mayor.
Just to say it was a good time at Simply Smyrna on this weekend. Thanks Sama and town did a good job of partnering and making it fun for everyone. And then also to say Happy Father's Day to all of the fathers. And lastly, there is an announcement about the Smyrna Juneteenth Committee is hosting the Juneteenth celebration on Saturday, June the 17th, from 2 to 8 p.m. And that will be at the Hilltop Rosenwald Park, and it is a free event for the community. So I hope everyone can come out.
HG?
Going to have to echo what Raquel said about the Simply Smyrna event the other night, but one thing I do have to add to it is that particular event is headed up by Carpe in association with the town and Simon and everything else, but they did do an excellent job, and as always, the town entered into it very, very well. Congratulations to Nissan on 40 years. Nissan's been very good to our community, and I didn't talk about this when we were in the reception for them, but right after Nissan announced that they were coming to Smyrna, I was attending the MTSU at the time, and I had a poli-sci class, and Sam Ridley came and spoke to that class. And one of the things that Sam Ridley said was that Nissan was going to hire Smyrna first, then they were going to hire Rutherford County, then they were going to hire Middle Tennessee, and then when they were going to hire the state. And any of us that have been around here for a long time know that they did exactly that. And I think that that's something that is very, been very beneficial to our community. We've seen other large corporations come in and import so many of their workers from everywhere else, and we didn't have to put up with that. I do know that another thing Sam Ridley said in that class that day was he said, we need IT people's resumes yesterday. And I took him Holly's IT resume the next day, and it took a little while. It took almost 8 months or so before she got hired, but she retired from Nissan in 2020. And so they've been, very good to my family also. Speaking of my family, tomorrow is my beautiful daughter's birthday. So I want to wish her a very happy birthday. And she can have a merry birthday. Can't she have a merry birthday?
Yes.
Happy Christmas, merry birthday.
That's right.
All of that. And then a week from tomorrow will be my son's birthday. So we have birthday week, and it's tons of fun. And we'll try to be kind throughout all the birthdays, the air show, and all of that. We'll do some shopping local, too. Thank you, Mary Esther.
Jerry?
Yes, first of all, I want to say condolences to the Hardy family as well. Certainly our thoughts and prayers are with you. Congratulations to the new police officers. We certainly appreciate what you've done and what you're going to do in your service, and thank you for joining our team. Congratulations to Nissan, as the others have spoken about, on 40 years. I remember when the groundbreaking happened as well, and I've got a son that works there and some other family members that have and do. And they've been such a partner to our town, and we certainly appreciate what they do and having them here. The last one, well, actually I got two more, but you'll hear me talk about this for the next probably several months, but Smyrna High School's class of 1973 is having their class reunion, their 50th class reunion, September the 16th, I believe it is. It's the night after the Jeff Coos run. So just trying to get that word out. It's going to be at the Smyrna Assembly Hall. It's not going to cost anything to come. We just want you to come. We want you to be there. And so if you could help us pass the word, I would certainly appreciate it. And then I have one I think is going to come up. Yeah, I had the privilege, and I wanted to say congratulations to Care Now, the urgent care. They had their grand opening out there on Sam Ridley. The mayor, myself, Brian Hercules, and Todd Spearman, and Rex were able to attend. And then we also had some of our county commissioners, Bill Wilson and Jonathan Beverly. So I want to say congratulations to them, and thank you for putting your trust in our town. That's all I've got, Mayor.
Great. Steve?
Condolences to the Hardy family, Mark, and the loss of his brother. Sorry to hear that. There are, this time of year, there's a lot of activities and a lot of events going on around town, so I encourage you to get out and enjoy those. Music in the parks areas and ball tournaments and play, a lot of youth playing ball. There's just a Simply Smyrna event this past weekend was, I think, very well attended, one of the largest crowds I've seen in a while. So encourage you to get out and enjoy the community. The weather's, I want to say nice, but it's hot, but it's not raining, so come on out and enjoy. That's all I've got, except for I have 3 birthdays in June that I have to mention. My wife's birthday was June 4th. We had a good day, just kind of doing whatever she wanted to do. We went to dinner and took her shopping for a piece of jewelry and, some of that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it's almost like every other day, but I didn't even fight back this time. And then my father-in-law celebrates his 95th birthday this Saturday, June 10th. We're having a birthday party for him Friday at the town center. And then my son will celebrate his 24th birthday, June 17th. So those are all obviously close family members, and it means I get to eat a lot of cake in June. So happy birthday to all of them. And then last, of course, my father and all the fathers out there, happy Father's Day. I'm fortunate enough to still have my dad with me and get to spend a lot of time with him, and I appreciate that. And I hope that all of you that still have your dads with you, to find some time to go by and say hi. That's it.
Mark?
Happy Father's Day to all you dads, us dads too. And my dad since has left me, but I have a lot of great memories about him. So from a memory perspective, I'm going to be thinking about him long and hard on Father's Day. Simply Smyrna was a great event, and from a community standpoint, it seems like that anything downtown has just grown, and it's really become the hub of our city. And so to everybody involved, fire, police, all the personnel, Mike, when they do depot days and all the events down there, they always step up. They always have people handling everything down there. Heather's always got the camera, Chief's always got the camera. They're all working that area pretty hard. So just appreciate everybody that pitches in. The stage down there at the depot is a grant product, as I recall. Is that right, Mike? So Mike just mentioned another grant for some playground equipment. I really appreciate our staff going after these grants and saving their taxpayers' money and beautifying the city at the same time. We'll wish Steve a little bit of good luck. Steve he's got some knee surgery coming up. He didn't share that with you, but you're going to have full knee replacement, I think, here in about a week.
A week.
Yeah. So good luck with that, and hope you heal quick.
Thank you.
The condolences to the Hardy family and Mark. And also to our new police officers, congratulations. Last but not least, Connie had a birthday, because he mentioned Pam, and since the birthday's already happened, I mentioned it last meeting, but I don't want to get home and her say, well, Steve talked about Pam. It was on the same day.
It's the same day.
We've had that happen before.
That's right.
So, yeah.
We have.
So happy birthday to my wife, belated a couple days late, but to Connie. And the air show. I imagine you're going to speak about that a little bit, so I will cut that off and let you have it, and that's all I have.
Brian, one thing for you and staff that I'd like for y'all to look at, I had a couple people question me at Simply Smyrna as to, on one-day permits, why people that possibly had food trucks and were coming in for one day, but people who were selling food that weren't necessarily in a truck but were still selling food, should they also have to have a one-day permit? And I'll be honest, it's one of those things I don't think we thought about as we were deliberating and discussion. So I don't know if y'all want to have some discussion and maybe and maybe,
We've already begun to look at our ordinances and see how that works within the ordinance. And one of the things we want to be careful of is, and I appreciate Kevin, where'd he go? Kevin and I had a conversation about this. One of the things we talked about is we want to be careful that we don't preclude maybe somebody like a Girl Scout troop selling
Absolutely.
cookies in front of Kroger or something. So I think what we're going to look at is food, if they're preparing food for resale, whether it's in a truck or under a tent, that we can look at those. So we're having those conversations, and we'll be bringing something back to council, I'd say, in the next 30 days or so.
well, I just had a couple of people ask me questions about it.
Just curious, could a business license be the key, right? If you're required to have a business license, then you should have to have a permit.
Well, I'd say, I understand why you're asking the question, and I would agree with the thought process, but sometimes we find out we need a business permit when we find out we need a daily permit.
I agree with that. That sounds like two penalties or two fines, right?
Sometimes they work in concert, so.
Because to your point, it's not just Girl Scouts, it could be a church event, it could be, a bake sale, something like that. It's usually fundraising activity and not for sale,
Yeah, and I
right?
think in those circumstances, I think it goes back to, and Kevin, I think you and I agreed on this part of it the other day, was that if there's food being prepared, so if you've got somebody that maybe has a grill that they pull behind their truck, type thing, and they're preparing food for resale at an event, then I did have somebody come up to me also at Simply Smyrna, and it was somebody that's, I guess, looking at another event coming up and said, hey, with these one-day permits now, how does that employ with these type situations? And we just really haven't looked at it, so we'll be looking at that and bringing back something.
Well, I don't think people think about the complexity of what we're talking about there too, because, then you've got on town property, and then you've got when an individual group rents the town property, and then we go over to the church property, or then we go to Susie with her lemonade stand. I mean, it just.
But like Simply Smyrna is not a town, it's not a town event.
Well, and I think there's another piece to this. One of the things we had happen this week at Simply Smyrna, we had one of the food trucks that we had a gas leak, and, if the fire department had not been checking those, so, there's several pieces of this that are complex that we want to be able to make sure we're making the right decisions. And if you'll give us 30 days, I think we're going to come back to this and
I just wanted to make sure that council was aware that some questions had been asked and that we might have to revisit that. Okay, couple of housekeeping items. It was a pleasure that I got to meet Logan Chambers from Boy Scout Troop 4, and Logan met with me and discussed government, and let me tell you, those questions were extremely difficult. Heather, am I lying? And so I'm going to have to ask them to submit their questions prior to the visit next time. So, but thanks to Logan, and congratulations upon earning your merit badge. It was a beautiful day for Memorial Day ceremony. Thank you to the speakers, Lieutenant Colonel Martin Plumley, Town Manager Brian Hercules, and VFW District 6 Post 8422 Commander Darrell Burke. Special thanks to all the attendees, Smyrna Police Department, Fire Department, and Parks Department for making the day possible. I wanted to thank Commissioner Shanto Sereno for the invitation to the Lao New Year celebration at the Buddhist Temple. I will tell you, if you have an opportunity to go, I would highly recommend it. It is really, really interesting, and Brian and Pat were also there, and it was a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It is amazing the number of people. I couldn't even come close to guessing how many they have.
I saw him at the board meeting a couple days later, and he said that there was close to 60,000 people over the 3-day event went through there.
It's well worth your time, and it's open to anyone. I think the wristbands were $10 and then $15 on the later days. Thank you to TriStar Stonecrest Medical Center. They donated Stop the Bleed kits for City Hall here in Smyrna for the Stop the Bleed month. This donation is part of the TriStar Stonecrest Medical Center's goal to distribute life-saving resources to organizations across the community. Chief, I think you were trying to connect with them for our Kids Day. Oh, we couldn't make it work? Okay, maybe next year. Oh, good. Good, okay. Stop the Bleed is a national awareness campaign directed by the American College of Surgeons that is intended to encourage bystanders to become trained, equipped, and empowered to help in a bleeding emergency before professional help arrives. Hands-on training sessions are designated to emphasize the use of tourniquets, direct pressure, and wound packing to properly and effectively stop blood flow. I think we have seen that definitely be effective in Janae's case, if her dad had not been there and done that. So, Simply Smyrna, we've talked quite a bit about. This year was another huge success. Patrons filled the streets to listen to the music and visit vendors and food trucks. Thank you to everyone who made it possible, Carpe, SIMA, Parks and Rec, and Police and Fire Departments, and all of the volunteers. Visit the From Here to There exhibition on display at the Smyrna Outdoor Adventure Center now through September 3rd. You can explore the space of how things move by land, sea, and air. And thank you to Middle Tennessee Electric for donating. Join us on the 15th for our 15th annual Boat Day, which will be Saturday, June 17th from 9 to 1 at Jefferson Springs Recreation Area. This event is free and open to all ages. There'll be things on the water as well as on the bank. Come out and help us celebrate the Independence Day on Saturday, July 1st at Lee Victory Recreation Park from 5 to 9 for live music, food vendors, inflatables, train rides, and fireworks start at dark and when all adults and kids are accounted for. The splash pad is open and the season is open for the season, and Splash Town is open as well. Come out and enjoy our pools and parks this summer season. You also can enjoy water aerobics at Splash Town on Tuesday and Thursday mornings this summer from 8 to 8:45. There's a $5 charge, but it is free if you have a Splash Town membership, and you can register for classes on Community Pass. Registration is now open for Smyrna Youth Football and Cheerleading. For additional information, you can visit smyrnayouthfootball.org for ages 4 to 12. Last but not least, the Great Tennessee Air Show is back this weekend in Smyrna. We're excited to have the Blue Angels back here this year and look forward to a wonderful show. Citizens, please be patient. There's going to be more people on the streets. There's going to be more people at our restaurants. But remember, a lot of them are coming just for a short time and they're going to leave. But hopefully they're going to leave their money here for us as well. So I also want you to know something else. We got a pretty not so nice email, and it was talking about how we've shut everything down and we're not allowing people to sit and see the air show outside the air show because we're trying to get tickets sold, and that's not the case. It's decided by the FAA. It is not our choice. I mean, it is for the safety, and I think 7 years ago was a perfect example of why I think they call it the box. And that's right. And so that is not something that's decided by the town of Smyrna. We want you to be able to view the air show, whether it's inside, if you buy tickets, or somewhere in the town, but just know it's for safety reasons that there are certain areas that are closed.
I think it's worth mentioning too that this is not a town of Smyrna event. Ticket sales don't go to the town of Smyrna.
Correct.
This is put on by the Smyrna Airport Authority, and it benefits the airport, but not the town of Smyrna directly.
Correct. So tickets to the air show can be purchased online only at greattennesseeairshow.com. It's my understanding you will not be able to purchase a ticket at the gate. There'll be several road closures for safety precautions during the air show. Follow the town of Smyrna, Smyrna Police Department, and Smyrna Fire Department with traffic updates and road closure information throughout the week. Additionally, Lee Victory Recreation Park will be closed during the air show as a safety precaution. It's my understanding we also have a wedding at the event center, and the only people that'll be allowed to park there will be the people that are with the wedding party. Just wanted to let you know that in the next couple of days, there'll be a video, a really, really old video that'll be coming out from 40 years ago, showing the dedication of Nissan. It's pretty interesting, and I hope you'll take the time to watch that either on Channel 3 or Facebook or YouTube. You all were wishing happy birthday. Leanne's birthday, my sister, was yesterday, and so I want to wish her belated happy birthday. I talked to her earlier in the day and forgot, and I called her back and said, oh my gosh, last night on my way home from work, and I said, I forgot your birthday. And I won't say exactly what she said to me, but you all can imagine. And she said, well, I had said to them, she didn't even say happy birthday. So
She's the nice one of the two.
that's what everybody says. That's what everybody tries to say. Yes,
That's what your mama told me.
that's probably true.
One thing I forgot to mention, many of you in the community probably know Larry Creasy, who is the principal at one of our Stewart's Creek schools. His mother passed away, I think Saturday before last. The funeral was Friday. So I wanted to offer condolences to the Creasy family. Miss Anna worked at Smyrna Elementary for 20-plus years, I think, and so if you had a kid or went through Smyrna Elementary anytime in the mid-'80s to probably 2000s, you either had Miss Anna or knew Miss Anna. She definitely impacted a lot of people's lives. So just wanted to offer that condolences to the Creasy family.
Okay, anything else? Nothing else, we're adjourned.